The VC314. Why the name?
Well, it's that the 314 is pi with the decimal point taken out, removed, and I thought that would be a great name for a code number for a Commodore product. We've had obviously the VIC-10, which was the Commodore Max, which was you know, like a primitive Commodore computer, going to the VIC-20. And then the VIC-40, which was then changed obviously to the Commodore 64. So I thought getting another VIC in there may be a good concept number for other people to know what they're talking about.
Yeah, that's true. So the mathematics behind it, and the VIC is also good to bring back and bring some memories back. Actually, my first computer was a VIC-20, but thankfully it didn't work that well, so I got a Commodore 64 instead.
Excellent. Well, there's still plenty of VIC-20s going, and they've made some really classic games. You know, I remember like a chariot racing game, and also Blitz. That's a brilliant game. You know, and it's a game that I've revisited on another project recently. So it's a lot of people have cut their teeth or learned how to program with the VIC-20, and a lot of people would argue that the programming language was somewhat more straightforward than the one that featured in the Commodore 64.
Right. So I think we should go a little bit more into details about this project, where you have put a Raspberry Pi into a Commodore 64. So we should maybe start with the Raspberry Pi. What is it? We have a picture of it here. I think these are all your pictures.
Oh, yeah, thanks very much. I mean, the Raspberry Pi is really, it's a device that was the concept was really coined by the founder, which Eben Upton, based in Cambridge, and the idea was that they wanted to put something together that was fairly organic, cheap to run, cheap to construct, which would allow people just to pick up, use it, and maybe start coding again, and hopefully it will gain. Because of its affordability, it may work its way into schools and liven up the IT educational program that there is in the UK. You know, they don't profess to do everything all at once, and that's quite realistic in doing that. But that their philosophy really was to have something that was easily obtainable, like the ZX80 and the ZX81 were beginning to be, getting to everyone should own one, and every man in the street could afford one sort of concept. So it's a UK invention, but it's very quickly was very popular around the world. So sold a lot of units in the United States and all over the world. Yes, that's right. Everybody loves a cheap PC, something to run a project on. I think before that you could probably obtain what they called a mini ITX, which was a PC project that I don't really know so much about. But the Pi has certainly caught the imagination of everybody around the world. On its launch day on the 29th of February this year, they sold out within minutes. You know, and I was there refreshing 2 computers, trying to find out where to order mine first. I managed to get an order in on the first day, but I still had to wait about 2 months for my one to arrive. So it certainly has caught the imagination.
And what does it cost in the UK?
In the UK, it costs roughly about €40, which I think is probably about 295 kroner.
Yeah. So it's still really cheap, even in Norway, and this is more or less a full computer. I mean, it has a processor, of course. It has some memory. It has network. It has graphics capabilities. It has sound.
Yeah, absolutely. The chip is an ARM11. That's its brain, and that also harks back to early Cambridge computing as well, because the ARM architecture was actually sort of conceptualized by the team that went on to make the BBC B computer and the Acorn computer, and it's a chip that's commonly used in all electronic devices to this day. So that's another Cambridge connection in there as well. But I'll talk you around the board just to let you know how it all connects up. Okay, so if we start at 12 o'clock, what have we got there? We've got the RCA out, and that's just one phono
on
socket
top here.
there.
Yeah,
that's right. Then the blue plug to the side is the sound provision. That's a 3.5mm jack there. Now the idea of putting those two on was really so it could go to third world markets and people that wouldn't necessarily have access to what we have in the UK, like a PAL RF transmitter, and also or HDMI even. You know, the idea is you could just plug that into any CRT television with the RCA or the phono input, and that will then enable someone to, you know, get on there and start coding with it.
Right.
Then the silver thing that you see, that's on the top, but that's actually that's a piggybacked USB socket. So that would have 2 on it. That will support the mouse and the keyboard as well.
So 2 USB ports.
Yeah, there, 2 USB ports. And then going down into the corner, the silver box there is the Ethernet shield. So that will enable you to connect up with the internet. And then there's your HDMI socket.
Okay, so this is the HDMI, yeah?
Yep, that's right. So that'll plug in and obviously should go fire up straight up on a modern LCD television. And it gives a very good resolution as well. It comes out obviously as like a normal monitor really on that. And then the one in the corner just above your forehead there, that is the power input, and that's just a standard mini micro USB. Power, and that just takes 5 volts, and that will be off a handy or a mobile charger.
Right.
And yeah, so that's how you actually power it on and off. And then at the top there, you've got the GIPO or GIPO pins for interfacing or running projects and using microcontrollers and the like. It's sort of an area I don't really know too much about.
Carl, I got a question from the chat. They're wondering how powerful it is, and can you run like OS on it, like Ubuntu or Linux or something, or to run, for example, watch YouTube or run Xbox Media Center?
Yeah, I mean it will run quite a few contemporary games, quite recent games at a fair speed. With its power, it's got on board. It's only got 512k on board, but that's all it needs, because it will look to the thing that I didn't mention on the picture. The illustration is that it requires an SD card, so that would plug in roughly where the mouse is hovering at the moment, but just going underneath the board. And then what you need to do is download some software from the Raspberry site, which will allow you to burn an image onto that SD card. It'll make the SD card really a chip, and then the chip that's on board the Raspberry Pi will look for that SD card, and then between the two of them it will discover its identity. So you'll be able to use a Linux-based language there's various different distros that are being used on it at the moment. When I took it, it was Debian Squeeze, which was a popular system to run the board.
I also saw there were some news about a special Minecraft versions that should work on this little computer.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, people are finding ways of making hardware work for the way that they want it to. You know, being very keen, it's always clicking refresh on the forums when I first got mine. There were people who had expectations for the Pi. They knew it was going to work, but they just didn't quite know how to execute it at the time. And I think now people are finding the workarounds and the way to actually get these things to run quickly. You know, it was announced with a huge fanfare, and there were a lot of people who did take the Pi on thinking that it would be a lot more accessible straight away. And a lot of people learn a lot about computers just by having to use the command line and burn images on the SD card and you know, check their downloads for checksums and things like that. All the aspects that they didn't really you know, anticipate having to do when they were ordering this computer. So it's no free lunch really. You still need a fair bit of support there, and hopefully,
Sorry.
So I was going to say, hopefully with future distributions, as the community figure these things out, an educational distribution would be available, which may be a little bit more off the peg, a little bit more ready to go for you know, for the masses really.
Yeah, that's true, because you should know what you're getting here, because this is what you get. It's not enclosed in any casing or anything.
No, that's right. It basically just comes as you see it.
Is it fragile? Is it easy to destroy?
I think so. Yes. I think it is. You could see where the power is. You've got a small drum-like capacitor at the edge there, and I was always a bit anxious about you know, ripping that off of my thumb while I was pulling the power in and out. So that was one of my main drivers to say, let's get this into something, you know, like a decent case. I started out with a Lego case just for its own safety, but then you know, when I decided what I wanted to do, you know, I was really pleased for doing it, because that just skids across the table. It's very light. And if you pick it up with sweaty palms, obviously you do run the risk of maybe creating your own little short circuits as you're handling the board. Although I think distribution number 2, I've been told it does have holes in each corner, so you know that'll be worth its weight in gold. You know, you're just getting a couple of drawing pins in the corner just to keep it still until you've made your case. Right.
So there will be a new version. But this picture is called a Model B, isn't that right?
That is right. Yeah, they announced a Model A and a Model B to be released, very much on the ilk of the BBC A and the BBC B, from what I understand. The BBC B, excuse me, the Microsoft, the Pi B, which is the one that you see in the picture there, is the one with the internet capability. The lower priced one I don't think has been released, and it may be because you know, of challenges that they face, you know, releasing this one, or it may be that, you know, if you're not going to be able to update your distros or any other aspects of the Pi without it being able to go online, then it may not be as versatile as the B. And for the price difference, they probably were going to just the smart money is buying the B anyway, because I think the other one was the one that was going to be heralded as the $20 PC.
Right.
And obviously this one isn't quite $20.
So it sounded a little bit less, but still most people would need a network anyway, so they would buy it anyway. Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of people who have adapted these to be media players and to stream throughout their house. So obviously, you know, you need all those features there, and they have become very good media streaming projects out there as well. I know a friend of mine has managed that, and he's very pleased with the results.
Yeah, and I mean it can play video 1080p with the HDMI cable, so it's quite powerful, at least for under 300 NOK Norwegian kroner.
Yeah, that's right, and you do need to configure it. You know, it won't come how you want it. It never will, you know, but it will. There's a good community out there on the Raspberry Pi forum, and I've found them to be very helpful with any requests that I've had, just for you know, scripts just to change things or to find out how to reconfigure the Pi to how I need it. Overlay settings and little things like that, you know, they really are, once you get them right, you know, it really does, it makes the Pi a great bit of kit, but it's actually figuring out how to do it if you've never done it before.
Yeah, Carl, does it come with any kind of documentation or references or something?
I've put in the links what you can get, because it's all web-based. When you get it, you'll get a CE certificate of conformity. You won't get a power pack, and you won't get an SD card. So there are. I would recommend getting on the internet and you know, finding a community that can support the any questions that you have, because again, my one was one of the first that came out on production, and you know, there was an issue at the time of whether an SD card that I'd purchased for it would actually be compatible or run correctly with the chip that's on board. So now all those issues have been ironed out. You know, there are wikis and eLinux and things like that can direct people, you know, to get it. But I believe there are books now available. I've seen that there are, you know, understanding your Pi how-to type books that have been published, and I think they're available in electronic formats and also in print.
And we will get these links from you, and we will attach it to the recording of this video later. So and also put it up on YouTube, so the people would see the references there. And back to this then. Of course, we need a casing, and I have seen a lot of ideas on how this can be built in somehow. And you chose a Commodore 64, and how's that?
Well, that is really, it was the only thing that was broken that was laying around.
Okay.
but it starts off a little bit earlier than that, because there was a device that I picked up a couple of years prior, because I did have a Commodore 64 that was it was found in a container from a family member, and they gave it to me. Said, "Oh, you like computers? Why don't you try and fire it up?" Didn't get much luck. We opened it up, and the PCB had blistered and got damage on it. Some of the tracks had even lifted away from the PCB, so that was more or less dead. But I was loath to throw it away, because you know, it's not having a Commodore 64 when I was younger. You know, I was quite attached to it. So I took the PCB out, and I liked the quality of the keyboard and all that, and just left it hanging around. I was doing a Google search subsequently, found a product called the Keyra, which is made by a company called Silicon Sonic, and I purchased that from a company in Germany. Yep. And I there it is there, yeah. And it's a great little product, because you can see that the holes marry up with the bosses that are inside the Commodore 64.
Right.
The joystick ports are all part of the board that you buy in. And the lead, the coloured ribbon lead, actually comes from the keyboard, and so does the power supply for the LED. You just plug them straight in, and you've got yourself a USB keyboard.
Right.
So I wanted to make myself the most interesting PC keyboard I could.
Yeah, because when you first put the Raspberry Pi in a Commodore 64, it would be magic if you could use the original 64 keyboard as well. Oh,
absolutely. I mean, it's that was the linchpin. Without that particular item there, you know, I wouldn't have got as far at all, because you know, I see a lot of people mention that they would like to turn a ZX81 or an Amstrad or a Schneider or a Sinclair Spectrum over to this, but it's getting that link between the two, and you know, the Kira interface happens to do it for the Commodore 64. It also fits the Amiga. It fits the C16 as well. So it's a great little product, and that's why I was really sort of motivated in doing it, just to show people, you know, you can do this. And you know, as we'll go on to explain, you know, there's minimal engineering involved. But it makes a very effective project. So, you know, it will fit the C64C model as well, which was the white one, which tried to look like a more modern Commodore. Yeah, so and also the joysticks as well. They behave as normal joysticks. They will map over. They'll give an electronic signal input. So you'll be able to, on an emulator, or you know, when using it on the PC, the idea was that you could use that as an input and use your classic Atari style joystick.
Yeah. So again, the Kira is the name, and it's a German company. Where you can purchase these online.
Yes, that's right. I found them to be very helpful as well. You know, very, very friendly, very good, very responsive. And speaking to some of my friends in the community, I'm not the only person to use that online shop. I think they're quite well known amongst the certainly the Commodore community, and you know, the retro gaming community in general all know of them.
Yeah, your Amiga shop since 1987, so they have been around for a while. And so Vesalia.de, we will add that link also to this video.
Okay.
So again, this is the magic to get also the power on the red power light, the keyboard, and to attach the joysticks.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, you can see there. I've used the pins. That's that bit of green, that lovely bit of green tape that I've used there. That goes over some pins.
Right.
Originally, the silver box that you see just above where the power used to be on the Commodore itself would be the USB 2 connection that would go. So it would get its power and its control and its signal from there. But again, you know, I was considering having to desolder that, turn it around, and then use the lead to the Pi from there. But that was pointed out to me by the vendor that, you know, why not use the pins that are there to do it. So that's what I did, really. So it made an easy job, you know, a bit easier.
Yeah. So if we move then to the next picture, when we see then the Commodore 64, and of course where you have removed then the actual C64.
That's right. Yes, it's just really a breadbin now. So it's there you can see the Pi I've installed there, and also the phono leak, the video out. I decided quite early that I was going to persevere with the phono rather than using HDMI, because because I don't have an HDMI TV in this office here, and I don't really get much access to the family television because they want to do more worthwhile things on it, like watch television, you see.
Yeah.
So, but and then next to it is the 3.5mm jack. And what I did, I just made a patch lead up, which converts into 3 phonos at the end. And I had to make that quite short because my first lead that I made up when I was doing a proof of concept just to see if it would work, when I called it up, I was going to see with the 4 or 5 wires I was going to have off there, I wasn't going to be left with an awful lot of room.
Yeah.
The other thing in the photograph there is the USB splitter that I've picked up at supermarket where I live. So that's like, and that was about £3.50, which isn't a lot of money at all. And that allowed me to use the Kira in USB 1 It allows me obviously to use the mouse still, because it will continue the socket out the back, and it fills the cassette port really nicely as well. Was that the cassette port? I can't remember what port it was now. But it fills that port nicely with 4 outputs, so that gives me my mouse one back, and it gives me a USB. It gives me a USB stick input as well if I needed to, you know, load up any ROMs, obviously,
right?
Or you know, get data transfer across from another system, so I could use that. I found it quite interesting because I've had no problem using that, although some people in the community said that you know, that couldn't be done. You needed a powered hub. I can imagine you can, because when when you fire it up with too many things in the back, it will just hang. It will just give itself what they call a kernel panic, and not really know. It wouldn't really know what day it was because it's just too much going on.
Right.
So I can see why people thought that you needed a powered hub for it, but if you're just going to use it as a VC project, then you know, using a mouse and using a USB stick just for, you know, data transfer, I haven't found too much of a challenge. But I can imagine you could overload it without using a powered hub, but needed to keep it cheap, and I weren't going to find a powered one for £3.50, so that went in. But it filled the port up nicely, and that was you know, things were going really well, because it was just like perfect. Everything just falling into place really nicely.
Yeah, so it fits actually in the slot here, and but there was no other there was no other reason for the hub there, or did you really need the ports, the USB ports?
Yeah, I mean, I just really wanted to outrig the. I wanted to break the port out, so there was no reason to open the case up at all. So I just happened to find the four-way one before I found anything else. So it's just really by accident. I was sent out shopping that day and I found that, and so that was good. But I was prepared to, if it was going to sort of like hang or something like that, I was prepared just to cover 1 or 2 of the ports up, which would then prevent me from using all 4 all at once.
Okay, yeah. Okay, should we move to the next one? Here we have a little bit more things, some
more
glue,
mess,
some glue and some batteries and what's this?
Okay, well, this is I've managed to order the 3 RCA. The 3 RCA plugs are now going into a female to female connector as well, which gives me the port out the back. That does actually go in the cassette port.
Yeah, that was I'm going to say that I remember that this was the cassette port. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other one's the user port on the side there. Now, you can see that's a really good picture there, because you can see that the next one to it, the grey one that's between the Duracell battery and the and the drum connector,
this one
is it's the Ethernet cable, so that connects up and that outrigs to or breaks out to there. And what I did, if you look closely, you see a Lego tile underneath that, and you'll see it underneath the HDMI lead as well. I found Lego to be the perfect filler.
Great.
Really good.
Yeah, because it's easy to find some bricks that you can use at least.
Exactly right. Yeah, and on a more practical note as well, you know, like you could see that I only needed one for one particular thing, and to line it up with the next port, I needed 2. But I actually glued them in with epoxy resin glue, which is a combination. We have araldite in the UK, like a Bostik type thing, but you mix the compounds together, and although it says on the label, that will go hard within, it will stick fast within an hour. You're really doing 1 lead a day, because you want it to go rock hard.
Right.
So it was really important to get it stuck down right first time, and that's where the battery come in, because that HDMI lead, that's basically carrying on the signal from the Pi, but that's like a coiled spring. I could only get a 2 meter one. I wanted to try and get a meter, I couldn't find a meter one anywhere, so a 2 meter had to do. So when I coiled that up, it would have just pulled the epoxy bond away. So I sellotaped a battery to the top, and until that went, until that set really.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's just all craft stuff, and it's the boy's Lego. So we won't tell him until he's a little bit older that I've used that.
Right. So it's a secret for now.
Just for now, just between us three.
Yeah, sure. Yep. Great. And then we have these connectors to the right.
That's right. Yes, we've got the power there. That I didn't have to do the power, but obviously if I needed to keep the case closed, so I didn't have to keep getting to the Pi to unplug it. It was fairly important. So that was the only bit of soldering that I really did in the project, was to solder a drum connection plug to the charger, and create use an on-off switch to break the circuit. And just when I was soldering that, I found it better to put the plug into the back of the drum connector while I was soldering, because it gets really hot. The needle that's in the middle that locates the plug, it melts and distorts with the heat of the soldering iron. So if you put the plug in, then do the soldering, that holds it in place while everything cools down. So hopefully whoever else carries on the project only needs to use one plug and not two, like I had to. And then I extended the mobile phone charger lead that I had as well, because when I'd spliced it, it only given me about 80 centimeters left to use, and I needed to plug the whole unit in further away than that, and it was really limiting. So I just used some speaker wire just to out-rig that and make that a bit longer as well. But that was the only bit of soldering that we did for the whole project. Cool.
And so we have this next picture, which is more it's ready to close the keyboard and
absolutely
finish it up.
Yeah, that's the final touches.
Yeah.
Now the beauty of that was that you can see it was suspended from every direction. So I didn't need the mounting holes really. So it was fairly lucky, although it was quite a nuisance to try and route the cables so they wouldn't all pile on top of each other, which would then prevent me from being able to screw the case secure.
Right.
Once you got it right, it would stay quite still, and even to this day, when I open that up, that stays there. So that was quite a relief, really.
Sure. And so we closed the lock, or what do you call it? You closed the.
Close the case.
Close the case. Okay. So
Yeah.
So we now see it from the outside, and we see the ports from the outside. So here we have the power.
Yep, that's right. Yep, that's the barrel connector for the power. And the next to it's a good old-fashioned toggle on-off switch.
Right.
And that's probably the most satisfying thing about the project, is that when you could actually turn it on and off without having to unplug a tiny little plug, it really felt like a real computer after that. It was that moment onwards, that I couldn't quite believe how well it was going. Also, I bought the plug, so I had to do minimal changing on the case. I didn't want to make any new holes, and I didn't want to remove too much of the existing casing. I only really, you can just about see above the barrel plug there. I took a tiny sliver away. I just chamfered it off slightly, so I could open the case up without creasing the connectors. But next to it, you've got the Ethernet connection, and you've got the barrel connectors, and you can see at the end there, that's where my mouse is plugged into one of the USB outs.
Right.
The where you see the 314 model number, that's where the key rar is. So I just found a piece of electrical trunking and just sprayed it the same colour as the livery, and stuck that in with a bit of epoxy resin as well. And that covered that up quite nicely.
Yeah. So if you look around, we have this video and audio plugs. and the Ethernet. And here we have the other side.
Yep, now that's a real nice nice angle for it. The plate I just had to remove and just spray the colour that I needed, and it looks all really nice and professional, but that's because I've had not really much to do with that side. That was all part of the key rod. Yeah. The on-off switch is actually not an on-off switch anymore. It toggles between using the joysticks, using the joysticks and/or the keyboard.
Okay.
The Pi seems to function either with it in either direction, but but it powers the LED up as well. The LED will actually come on in one mode and not be on in the other mode, but it works either way for me.
Right.
And then the other connector is the USB 2 connector that we discussed earlier, and that would be the old output. So if I wanted to use it as a PC keyboard, I could still do that. I'll just plug in my patch lead there and plug the other end into the computer, but I'd have to be mindful and not power up the Pi, because I wouldn't want too much going on underneath the case. Bad things might happen to it.
That's true. So here we have the finished product, and what stands out for me is really the coloring you have done here with the red color. Yeah,
well, when the Commodore product is notorious for going sort of like a nicotine colour. Sort of like an off yellow, and I did try a few other things to try and bleach it and get it back to its to its new colour, if you like. So I did experiment with that, but then the other thought that I had was, I could really sort of go Pi crazy about it and have a purple, black and grey livery Pi, which I thought about for for a short amount of time, and then wanted to keep costs down, and ended up just getting sort of like a red enamel for it, which I just masked off and just sprayed, and that's good. I mean, it gets various different types of feedback. You know, some people will look at that immediately and just detest what I've done, and other people will you know, I just wanted to show, yes, I have done something slightly different with this particular machine. I mean, I happen to think it looks really nice, but then I wouldn't I? So it's
but I really like the color, and I'm also thinking that Commodore sold 20 million of these, and they never got to the idea of changing the color. They changed the case, so it got a more modern looking case, I think. But for us retro guys, this old breadbin is really the computer that we wanted.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at the films where Time Warner managed to place their Commodore machine in, you know, like in films like Airplane and Police Academy. You know, you can just see the shape of a Commodore a mile off, can't you? And you know, when they changed the shape for the Commodore 64C, which was the model number in the UK, you know, it no longer really looked like a Commodore. You know, it's just it just wasn't the same. So it's you know, they look kind of ugly, but that's in its beauty as well.
Yeah, that's true. And what do you think about the color, Einar?
I think it looks fine.
Good.
I would wish to actually experiment a darker color as well, but I think it looks fine as it is.
And it is good. I mean, it's getting somewhere now. Near the Commodore key, that's beginning to wear away. But you know, it's and that gives it character.
Yeah.
So when we are going to order this from you, we can choose color, or?
Well, it's an open source project. I think I would like just to give people the inspiration and let people carry on how they want to do it. You know, it's really the amount of help that I've had from people for me to get to get Vice running on the distro that I had. To get advice on you know, patching the key bar up and you know and taking the risk in purchasing some equipment to do it. You know, it's not mine to sell. It belongs to everyone. So it's you know, I just hope that you know, anybody else who comes along can perhaps say, yeah, it's a 314. But apart from that, that would be be their own child. I mean, it would be. I'm looking forward to the Spectrum Plus 314, and I may be looking forward to the Amstrad CPC 314, but they'll be made by bigger brains than mine.
Okay, so we have this also picture where you have connected so this is a original joystick for Commodore 64. That's
right, yeah, that's a Spectra Video lump of plastic, unresponsive lump of plastic that I used in the Bruce Lee demo video.
Right.
Yeah, it's that really puts the finishing touches to it. That I was able to use that, and then on the other side you've got the optical mouse. So it's sort of like it sort of characterises that it's in both generations.
That's true. It's like old meets new.
Yes.
So how is it difficult to set up? I mean, what kind of emulator are you using on this one?
On this one, I'm using Vice, which is not so difficult to implement on the distro that I had. I appreciate things might have moved on now, so if anyone takes the project on now, it should be easier for them, because obviously the distributions of to compile Vice may be easier to obtain. But if they're not, there are still threads that have been created by people that would put them in the right direction to implement Vice on whatever distro that is the popular one at the moment.
Right.
Like I say, I've got Debian Wheezy on mine. That allows me to run a Spectrum emulator. That allows me to run Fuse as well. So it's quite surreal playing Chucky Egg for the Spectrum on my Commodore. But the things that I really had to play with were overscan settings, and they seem to be different for everybody's monitor or everybody's computer. So, you know, it's a lot of experimentation and using the command line and changing the settings on that. I wouldn't say it was. It's not difficult, but you know, you need to know what you're doing first of all, and you perhaps making a backup of some settings. So if you do lose your overscan too much one way, you can still have memory on what you're typing in, although you can't see it, to bring it back the other way. But with each distribution that comes along, they do become a little bit more user-friendly each time. So that may be a challenge that people who take one on now may not have to face at all.
Yeah, and it certainly looks like a C64, and from the video it seems to feel like it as well. But how, for you that have I guess also played the original one, C64, and for this emulator, how does it feel to play it?
It feels great to play, but it's not the same, and I think that'll probably be the same for anybody who's emulating. I mean, I've got a Commodore emulator that I use on my PC straight away. Obviously, the one on the Pi as well. I do have some limitations with it. I mean, although that's 512k RAM and then like 2 to 4 gigabyte, whatever you've got on your SD card, which makes it super powerful to run an emulator. You move the joystick and the mouse at the same time while the Pi's trying to do something else. It will tell you that it's unhappy, and it may cut the sound out. So you may have to, you know, go to the settings and restart the sound again. So
right.
for all its elegance, you know, it looks nice and smooth. It's probably going like, you know, it's going like crazy just to support a game that was probably written in 40 kilobytes. So it's, I would say that although it's a great project and it'll emulate very well, you can only go so far with an emulator. You know, it's nothing like using. There's nothing the same as using the real thing.
Okay, and so if we move a little bit away from this very cool project then to your, because you have a blog page, and it's not all about C64, because you have this retrotext.blogspot.com or .co.uk, I think. And here you have also interest for ZX Spectrum.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I mean, as I can now, you know, obtain these things again, I can rediscover them. And I was always a Spectrum owner before I was anything else. And I had a ZX Spectrum Plus. That was my first computer that I got over the Christmas of 1985. And there's still a lot to be done with it. I mean, it's I can use utilities now that will allow me to load a game up like Manic Miner, which used to take about 4 minutes. So I can just use a standard utility that I download off the internet, and then just convert it into a file that I can save to my MP3 player that will load up the same game in 40 seconds. And that's not doing anything to the computer. That's just using today's technology to make things run a bit smoother. Right. It's just a great experience doing that. There's also the divide interface that you can have for the Sinclair, which allows you to, you can even use a utility called the video in it. That'll allow you to stream live video saved on a compact flash card, and it just blows my mind, really. I mean, that's it's a thing that I could just about get to print my name over and over again with a go-to command, but yet I'm watching the opening titles to The Simpsons on it now.
And this Spectrum, it was a UK invention, I think, from Sinclair. Was it more popular than C64 from the United States?
I would say personally, yes. It came in at a lower price bracket. Obviously, I don't think people were particularly patriotic about the choice. I mean, we were fairly pragmatic, and cost rules. But the beauty of the Spectrum was that the games seemed to be easier to copy, or more people had taken to copying the games. I'm just not expecting the police to burst through the door right now, but to copy the games back in the day, if you owned a Spectrum or your parents had bought you a Spectrum, you could have a library of games just by going to school.
Right. So
yeah.
So and we remember, of course, the 48K version with the rubber keys.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, the dead flesh keyboard. It's just it's an icon these days. People won't mistake it for anything else. It's a real design masterpiece. Although looking back, if perhaps a proper keyboard was adopted, it might have given more elaborate machines a better run, because although I like the Spectrum and I'm a big Spectrum fan, I was always envious of built-in joystick ports and a proper solid keyboard that you gained with the Commodore 64. But that I think they were closer to about £350 as opposed to 150 in the UK for a ZX Spectrum.
One of our viewers said he had a Spectra video 328. So I don't know if you know that one, but
I don't know. Spectra video, that rings a bell. Is that a Sinclair clone?
I'm not sure. There was a lot of these kind of less popular computers that still was also in Norway. You also had this Dragon 32, I remember, and several.
Yeah, the
others.
Dragon 32 that's based out of Wales. That was you had the 32 and the 64, I believe, on that, and. If I remember the joystick connections on it, I think they're more like a telephone connector, which they were very rare. Although I think there is, I think you can still pick a few of them up.
Should we also mention this one? We have only a few minutes left here, but this you called it the Fignition with some still more Legos from your son, I believe.
Yes, I know I'm going to get in trouble now. But the Fignition is it's a computer that I picked up before the Pi, and in all fairness, it's the computer that I carry on to use now. It's an 8-bit computer that's it's all on one chip that you assemble yourself.
Right.
The picture there is of my Fignition, which is actually patched over to an Arduino, which allows me to use a full keyboard. But if you buy the computer in kit form, it comes to you with an 8-button tactile switchboard, which allows you to use corded inputs, so you can put in commands by maybe holding down button 1 and pressing button 3 to get an A, and so on. Although it's fairly laborious, you can really get quite a good speed up going on that.
Yeah.
Although the keyboard obviously is something that we would prefer to use if we've got one. It uses Forth as its programming language, which is something that I never imagined that I'd ever use, but now I have used it. I've been able to program games and and learn more and more about it. So I've just really enjoyed using that, and that's something that we pick up that you can order online. I mean, in the UK, excluding postage, it's going to be about £20 sterling, which I think is about 185 kroner. So and it's about 40 components. It's a great little community, and I would say personally, educationally, there's a lot more you can learn on a Fignition, than you would normally give it credit for. When you broke out your Spectrum on Christmas Day and then took over the television and to load up your first game, you'd switched it on and there was a language already built into it. Now, although the Pi is pretty good, you're having to go through to an awful lot of effort, and a lot of computer understanding needs to be there before you can even to even work the thing, which makes the Fignition really more of a ready-to-go computer, because you can just turn it on, type in your name, and you don't have to do anything else to it. It's ready to go, and that's what makes it a great computer to learn to understand things. And it's also given me an introduction into AVR programming as well, because it's open source. When there's new firmware written for it, you can just use like a utility like AVR do, just to burn over the firmware. And again, these are techniques that we used 30 years ago, and it's nice to know that you may be connecting and feeling the same excitement and the same emotions when you're soldering your last resistor and you got your fingers crossed and you're plugging it in to see if you get like a good morning message up on it.
Yeah, that's true. I really hoped we had more time, but 1 hour goes really fast. And but I think it was great to go into details about this, and it could also trigger some interest for other people that are considering either the Raspberry Pi and maybe they have a C64 that they don't have the heart to throw away, even if it doesn't work anymore, so they can still use some parts of it to get the real retro feeling.
Oh, absolutely, and if we see a couple more 314s online, that'd be great, really, because it's nice just to make a good computer live a little bit longer.
Yeah.
That's true. So thank you very, very much for joining our show, Carl, and we really appreciate it for joining from the UK, and the best of luck to you for your future projects.
Oh, tack av Avel, and catch you soon.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Tack.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.